Faith and fear require you to believe in the same thing, the unknown. We don't know what's on the other side when we're choosing to walk in our faith, and we don't know what's on the other side when we're choosing to walk in fear. But either way, we have to make a choice. Welcome back to my channel. My name is B, and this is a journey back to self. This is part 3 of a 3-part series where I am discussing how I am healing from the inside out and how I arrived to this space of sharing my journey and what it looked like and where I'm going. So, thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, I encourage you to check out parts 1 and 2. If you have been along for the ride, welcome back. We have so much to dig into tonight. I wanted to make sure that I was able to get this video out before the new year as a testimony to myself for everything that I went through this year, and also because I don't plan on taking any of this into 2025. And so I'm really excited to conclude this and then just have the ultimate rebirth as I'm transitioning into my next chapter. So, were there signs that, your marriage wasn't working out and things were going astray and all of that? Yeah. And I ignored them. Obviously. That's why we're here. But no, in seriousness, like, yes, there were definitely signs that, things were not as they seemed. And one of the things that I will say, if somebody tells you that they don't think you are, they're good enough for you, believe them. Absolutely believe them. Because what they're conveying to you in actuality is that you guys are operating on two different energetic frequencies. You are maybe operating here and they may be operating on a lower frequency. And that's not to make anybody feel smaller, but that is actually what they're saying. And essentially, when you continue to move forward and bypass what they're expressing to you, sometimes lower energy cannot rise up. Sometimes it just does not have the fuel to rise up. So essentially, what it will do is lower your energetic field of energy, right? And humble you, bring you down to that middle ground. So now that you are equal, and that is not the type of equally yoked you desire to be. I'm letting you know right now, like, you do not want to be at that type of low vibrational frequency. That said, let's continue on where we left off. So where we left off was August, and this month was filled with a lot of highs and lows. My husband finally had got accepted into the Pomona Police Department, police recruit, I guess, employment opportunity. And so we were really excited to help him just embrace the fact that he was starting a new journey and he was fulfilling what he wanted as his dream job. And so my mother, just a little bit of context really quick. My mother used to be a correctional officer for Rikers Island. So this was like a really exciting time for her as well. And she was like full on board with support. So during this period of time, we were still experiencing financial losses because now, obviously, he wasn't working his other job. He was working, getting ready to start his new job, or in process of, starting the academy. And so there was a delay in checks. And so we had to continuously rely on my family. Again, my mother and father. So grateful. Thank you for everything. But I was growing weary. I was growing weary of asking my parents for money. And I was just like, hey, is there anybody that you can call on that can help us? Because, my parents are doing a great deal of the load helping us. And he seemed to be like really nonchalant about it. And there was one particular night where I was like, okay, well, we don't have the gas money to get you to work tomorrow. So what are we going to do? Like, I need you to see if you can call any of your friends, any of your family to ask for like 30 to $40 to put gas in the car. So he was like, okay, cool. I went in the shower after putting the kids to sleep. I came back out in the living room where he was sitting on the couch. And as soon as I walked out, he closed out his phone. Okay. Who are you texting? Okay. Don't get mad. Don't trip. Okay. Who are you texting? Okay, I was asking this girl for some money because I knew that, she would probably give it to me. Who, Sabrina? No, I told you me and Sabrina are done. That chapter is closed. That's dead. Okay, well, what girl now? It was this girl I was talking to while, you know, we were in separation. Oh, okay. So you were talking to more than one woman, more than one, person during the period of separation, the last couple of months, right? While I thought you were only talking to Sabrina. He was like, yeah, like I already told you that me and Sabrina, it was nothing like that. Like I was never her man. I was just, doing whatever I wanted to do. We already been through this. We already closed this chapter. We already, said we forgive you. You forgive me for this. Blase, blase. So I'm like, okay, pause. You didn't bring up all of this other stuff. Then you didn't say that there was all of these other women. So that's when he begins to unfold and unpack more of his truth of how he was basically talking to a lot of other women. It was just a lot. Like it was it was just a lot. So this is the point where I began to wake up, because you are really like letting me know to the extent of how much you just did not care about how I was feeling and what I was going through. And also, I can't really like crucify you about that, because you're telling me now after I have already forgiving you essentially, and we worked past that. So now it's like I feel again slighted, because you're this is some after the fact type shit. Like you're telling me this information after the fact. You didn't allow me to make a judgment call with this information ahead of time. Cool. Moving on. So if you are not familiar with trying to be a police officer, there's a series of things you have to do. Part of the background process is for them to do criminal history, drug tests, etc. And you have to pass all of this in order to even receive a conditional offer letter. Well, he seemingly passed all of this because he was offered a conditional offer letter. Now, he was set to start the academy on September 16th. So he was basically going into work to the training facility in Pomona to just get in preparation, do basic workout trainings before he actually entered the academy. The academy was set to start September 16th, and his graduation date was none other than my birthday in March. What are the odds? What is the odds that you would be graduating from the police department on my birthday? We just thought, wow, look at God. Like it's just the stars in the sky. It's aligning. It's like magical. Everything seemed to be like flowing. Well, 2 days prior to him going to the police academy, he was called into the office and he was terminated. The background report came up that he had a domestic violence case that took place in 2017 against none other than me. In 2017, there was a domestic violence incident between us where I was on a work call and I told him to get out of my house and to give me back all of my belongings, to just leave everything, leave my key, leave it all on the table. And he was like, no, I'm not leaving none of this shit. Like, it's mine. Okay, cool. So on the way out of my apartment, he decided that he was gonna start cursing me out while I was on a work call, video call, talking to my team. He decided that he was gonna push me out the way. Was just like, yeah, I don't give a damn about your job. I don't give a damn about anything that you got going on. Like, and this is also a sign that I really want to pause there and kind of put a pin in before I continue with a lot of the problems that we had in our relationship, in our marriage, was centered around the fact that I had come from a higher education background, and for whatever reason, this kind of disturbed him. It like he projected his inadequacies on me, and it really just bothered him for whatever reason. I don't judge anybody for the background that they have or they don't have in education. My father never went to college. He only has a high school diploma. He is a self-taught man. Everything that he knows is from the books that he's read and from him seeking out knowledge. So I've never judged anybody for the type of education that they have or don't have. It did put pressure on myself to to get reach higher education, but I never judged him for that. So when the police came, they asked me, did I want to press charges? And I was like, no. Um, but they did take pictures of all of the bruises, all of the scars. They did ask me what happened. I told them that, he had me on the ground. He had choked me and I wasn't able to breathe. All of this stuff they documented. Now, I didn't think that anything of it because I had told them I didn't want to press charges. And I figured like they showed up on the scene so that they had to, at least document what happened. And that was it. We never heard back from the police about anything because I didn't press charges. Like we didn't go to court, nothing like that. It was just gone, it was just done from my knowledge. But because they had took pictures of me and because they had came to the scene and they saw the visible marks and everything like that, they did have to make a record. And so during the background report for my husband, this did not flag to the very last minute. This happened in Long Beach, and so they were the very last people to get back to the Pomona Police Department. And so when he was terminated, he was devastated. Of course, I was devastated as well too, because I'm like, this year has been a mess. And finally we have like this little ounce of hope, this new beginning, this new set start. And it just felt like it just got like the rug just came from underneath us. And so I drove all the way to go get him. He was in tears. And like my heart was just breaking for him, because if you've ever like wanted a job really, really bad or wanted something really, really bad and you got it and then it was snatched away from you, like, how heartbreaking that is. He was devastated. And so what I wanted to do was just like really comfort him. And I felt really bad because I felt like, well, shit, this is tied to me. I didn't press charges, but because I, called the police and everything like that, like, I know I'm going to have some backlash between this. But after he had calmed down, we had a talk and he was just, just explaining like he was just really sad and he loved me. He knew that it wasn't my fault. He said to me that it wasn't my fault. He said to me that it was just a consequence of the actions that he had taken. Should have never put his hands on me. And, it's just sad that this came up so many years later and was now affecting his ability to succeed in the role that he wanted. And so I tried to comfort him. And the next couple of days were really like hard because, as you can imagine, he went from every day, for the last month, feeling as though month and a half, basically feeling as though he was going to be a police officer. I mean, he had received his uniform, everything. We took pictures of, like, it was just so much. And then that was just like snatched. And on top of that, it was the reason why it was snatched was in connection to me. Right. So, he was just distraught, but then he began to like pick himself up and he was like, we got this. I'm not going to let this, destroy us. I've made so much progress over these last couple of months. And he had made 180-degree change. Like the man that was in the police academy segment or whatever, like that man, oh my gosh, I love that man. Like that probably was the husband that I was waiting on for the entire time. But here's something to note. Please do not ever get with anyone based off of the potential for who you think they will be. That is something that you cannot do. When you try to see the potential in someone, all you are seeing is the projection of what you would do in that circumstance. So don't ever put yourself in that situation. But again, the potential I was living in that. And it was a beautiful experience for those couple of months. But it all came crashing down very shortly after. Continuing on, he said that, he was not going to go back to his destructive ways. So I want to touch a little bit on this. What I had noticed about my husband is he has a 3-month cycle. That is his, and again, I'm not a licensed therapist, so I cannot diagnose him as a narcissist, but that was the tendencies that were the cycle of the idolization, the devaluation, and the discard. So he would go through a 3-month cycle of love bombing me, where things would be good. Then all of a sudden, he would disconnect with and go to his new supply. Once he made his new supply feel better, he would discard me. That is the cycle. It was 3 months. That is his 3-month pattern. I would notice the shift. So he was explaining to me that he wasn't going to go back to that. He wasn't going to, go back to what he knows was destructive. We were going to continue in this new beginning. Cool. Peep this. On October the 2nd, he decided that he was going to take a test. So only 2 weeks had passed now, right? He decided that he was going to take a test for another city police department. I had told him, like, listen, we can't let this stop us. We got to continue to move forward. Like, don't let one situation hold you back. I had explained to him that, I would try to write up an affidavit to help him and say that, the incident in 2017 didn't necessarily go the way that it was described. I also had emailed the chief of police to see if, for the Pomona Police Department, to see if we could have a sit down and maybe talk through it, really explain the situation. I was trying to do anything that I can to save his ass and his job. On October 2nd, I drove him to take a test for another police department, and part of this was the physical test. So we're starting all the way from the beginning again. And I noticed he was feeling really down about it. So on the ride home, I tried to pump him up, on the ride there, I tried to pump him up and get him excited. And he was just like down. And I get it. You're starting all the way from scratch after having already done this, got completed, got your uniform, about to start the academy, and now you have to start from scratch over again. It sucks. It fucking sucks. But I got you. I'm going to hold you down. So he had to go in to take the physical test, and he had to leave his phone in the car. Well, let me tell you something about spirit, ancestors, and God. They're going to work in collaboration, and they're going to reveal to you what you need to see. He left that phone in the car, and I went to go take the kids to get McDonald's to get something to eat. And I put the phone in my book bag so I didn't leave it in the car. And lo and behold, what do I see? I see a FaceTime missed message from Miss Sabrina. The person that we said is a done situation. Look, Miss Sabrina. Miss Sabrina back on the scene. Okay, he's taking his physical test. When he comes out, I'm in a pissy mood, right? Because what is up? But the kids are in the car, so I have to maintain balance so I don't address anything. He looks at me, instantly knows like something's wrong. What's up? What's up, babe? What's wrong? I don't want to talk about it now. What's wrong, babe? What's wrong? I don't want to talk about it right now. Like, I'm not in a good mood. Let's just pause this. You went through my phone? What you mean, did I go through your phone? Why would I go through your phone? What's in your phone? Oh, because you just seem mad. Well, I am mad, but like, what does it have to do with your phone? Oh, nothing. I just thought you seen something. Seen
Was
what?
telling on yourself.
Nothing. You just tripping. Well, actually, yes. I seen Miss Sabrina on Miss FaceTime call. He goes silent. Why you went through my phone? I didn't go through your phone. I seen your phone as I was putting it in my book bag to take the kids to get something to eat, and I seen Miss Sabrina on the screen. Well, well, what? Well, you shouldn't have been looking at shit. Say no more. Say no more. Don't even say anything else to me. When we got home, I said, hey, this is done. I'm done. Like, baby, I can't do it anymore. I cannot do it anymore. I'm really good. I gotta go. I gotta go where the love is reciprocated. I gotta go where I'm appreciated. I gotta go where there is love. Bye. And he was like, what does that mean? Me and the kids are moving back to my hometown. Like, I can't do this anymore. And he was just like, well, why are you going? What? What are you talking about? I, what part of what just transpired didn't you get? And then he was just like, all right, well, cool. Okay. Say no more. So, um, oh, okay. I have my notes because I want to make sure I'm boop 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 boop. All right. So at this point in time, I was tapped out. Like, I had wakened the rose colored lens, the glasses, they was coming off. They wasn't fully off yet. They was coming off, right? So what transpired over the next couple of days is we didn't speak. The beginning of the year all over again, where he just didn't want to take accountability for the fact that, he didn't even want to explain why Sabrina he had a missed FaceTime call from her. He didn't want to take accountability for it or anything. No apology, nothing, no addressing it. And this is the same person who I just picked up from of off the floor of like being heartbroken, and I'm just like trying to get him together and encourage him and motivate him. And then it started to make sense. He felt slighted that he had lost his opportunity, and in order to pay me back, he wanted to make me feel hurt. So, how can he do that? He just continued to go back to that supply because it was just like, it was easy, and he wanted to hurt me. And so, when the lens started again falling off, I recognized that, like, yo, this is wild. like you're not going to put me through this same mess. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. So in order to continue to spite me, he went back to not doing anything with the kids again, and not picking up our oldest son from school. So I had to go pick up our oldest son from school. And on the way to picking up our oldest son from school, he was basically like, you didn't even let me tell you what happened. Well, what happened? I called Sabrina because, I was just down and out, and her dad is an ex chief of police, and I was desperate, and I was hoping that he could help me get in. That was all a lie, bullshit. I looked at the call records, because again, he was on my phone playing everything. That was bullshit. He had it. It was bullshit. Called him out on his bullshit. And I said, all the sacrifices that I have made, not just this year, but in this marriage, I don't know how you feel comfortable enough doing this to me. That's when his mask fully came off. And he let me know from his view that I wasn't worth a damn. I hadn't made any damn sacrifices. I was worthless to him. He didn't care what I had did. He didn't care how I had poured into him. Like, he just let me know everything that he felt about me. Like, basically, I like he used my energy. He used the things. He used my knowledge that I had, the finances that I had, and everything that he could to benefit from me. And he let me know all of that. And that shit ate me up real bad, real bad. So I ended up slamming the door, going to get our oldest son, and on the way just trying to calm down. When I got back to the house, um basically at this point in time, he was, getting his book bag ready, and he was claiming that he was going to the gym. Now, mind you, right, everything that I went through earlier in the year, I was able to start putting my blues clues together. And I recognized that Sabrina got off at a certain time, and that's the time that he would go over to her house, um to hang out. Now, in September, he didn't have no car, so he got to wait on Sabrina to get off of work and to come get him. So I'm telling him, I'm like, yo, this feels mad familiar. Like, you're going to Sabrina's house. He still, he's still trying to be like, no, I'm not. Whoop-de-woo, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to my brother's house. He likes to use his brother's house and his dad's house as an escape for the activities that he likes to do. So once he said that, I already knew what it was. And that's when my ancestors tapped in, and it was like, yo, B, wake up. This, like, look at what's happening. And you didn't have to tell me twice. I woke up and I realized, like, yo, he played me. Like, I was being played. I was being played this entire time. And that was a ego death for me. Because I really poured my love into the situation. I loved him. I co-created with him, and I was basically sleeping with the enemy. And I didn't realize that up until that moment. So he went over to Sabrina's house. And while he was doing that, I was sending him messages, and I was listen, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this to me. If anything, you can wait until I'm gone, but to do this to me right here while I'm with the children and everything like that, like, have mercy. And he basically laughed it off. He didn't have mercy. So I went into the bathroom. I took a bath. I barely could get into the bath. And that's when I was crying. And it wasn't for me. I was crying for my children. I was crying because I felt that I had failed my children, that I had, entered into not only a marriage, but a soul contract with him, and created two beautiful young boys, but that this is the life that I gave them: a broken household, a dysfunctional family. And that really took me out. So I didn't have any more tears for him. I had cried all the tears that I could for him earlier this year. My tears were only for my children. And that is when I made the decision that I had to choose myself. I had to choose myself, and I had to choose, by extension, my boys. Like, I could not be in a situation where my boys would grow up and they would emulate or normalize this type of behavior, and as a result become a product of their environment. And I never wanted to be in a situation where my children are like, you stayed after all dad did to you, you stayed, you still stayed. Nah. I had to stand up. I had to get myself together, remember who the fuck I was, and choose myself. And when I say that God answers that prayer, for some people in 24 hours, he answers that prayer. He answered that prayer in 7 hours for me. 7 hours. Okay? Because the very next morning, right? I was putting my youngest had waken up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was getting ready to put him to get his breakfast. And my oldest was coming out to go to the bathroom. And mind you, they were waking up this early because they were accustomed to the schedule that we had for bringing my husband to work. So they were still getting up at that regular time. So anyways, he's waking up, teething, crying. My husband is sleeping in the room with the kids. And I'm like, you can't, like, at least get up, change our son's diaper, and, get him in the kitchen to get breakfast. This is what I'm thinking in my head. So I walked into the room, grabbed our son, and that's when my husband was like, why you got a fucking attitude this early in the morning? Bro, don't say anything to me. It is literally 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, please, 5:30. Like, don't say anything to me. And that's what I told him. Like, don't say anything to me. He was like, that's why I don't like you. You always got a fucking attitude. Okay. I'm completely ignoring him, putting our child in, getting ready to put him in the hot chair. So I do that. And then our oldest son was coming out the bathroom, and I went to go, meet him halfway and be like, come on, I'll make your breakfast too. And he was like, and don't touch the door. What? Yeah, don't touch the door. What door are you talking about? The door to the kids' room. Don't close the door, because you like to close the door and be to yourself, or like close the door and keep the kids in a separate room with you? Yeah, I do, because the kids are not going to see us going back and forth. Like, I'm not going to create trauma with them at all. So, long story short, I didn't touch the door. I just was like, yo, whatever. And I turned around and he was like, you know what? You a bitch. Now, up until this point, I had been, again, loving light. But my son was right there, my oldest son, and he called me out of my name in front of my oldest son. And so I told my oldest son, hey, go sit down. And in the midst of doing that, I turned around to him and I said, no, you're the bitch. In fact, I'm the big bitch and you're the little bitch. And that must have set him off because he put his hands on me. And when he did, I called the police. Like, if there was nothing else that was going to be the defining moment, because I had already decided, I had already told God that I chose me. But if there was nothing else, if there was any room, any slightest room for persuasion, that was the nail in the coffin. Because what you cannot do is put your hands on me again. And what you cannot do is put your hands on me in front of our son, who was standing right there. So, yeah, that is how and why I chose myself. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. The rose-colored lens had came off. And I truly had seen what this situation was. And once that happened, everything started flooding through within my mind, because I couldn't like process how I got here. Now, of course, when you're in a narcissistic cycle and it's on repeat, it basically creates a level of codependency and attachment. And so I had unhealthy attachments in this marriage and to my husband, and the connection and everything like that. And I was finally able to separate and see my truth, his truth, in the lie that we were living. And that the love was unrequited. And that is a big thing. But during this time period where that happened, and again, when the domestic violence took place, and the police came, took him to jail, and I'm grateful because my ancestors, God, spirit, had built up so much stamina for me throughout the year of, like, I guess, to this defining moment where it was like, it felt like a relief. Like I said, there were no tears for him. Like, I was relieved to walk away. Yes, the incident took place. The domestic violence incident took place, and he put his hands on me, and especially in front of our kid. And that's not anything like, woo, therapy. But I still felt relief because I knew that I never had to look back. I knew that the cycle was finally broken. I knew that I could walk away, and I did, and I chose myself. And there's no way in hell that I am going to allow my children, my boys, to see that kind of behavior take place. There's no way that I'm going to allow them to live through that, create that trauma, create that normalization within, like, no, that doesn't even make sense. And so I just couldn't. And one of the things that my husband tried to instill fear within me is that, okay, well, people are going to see you as you had this failed marriage, and in your friend group, like, your friend group is going to see like you had this failed marriage. And so he would kind of try to instill fear of that, like, you're going to take an L by losing me, like, and you're never going to find me again, like, you're never going to find anybody like me. Well, baby, I hope I don't. That's the point. I don't want to find a love like that. It's insane. Yeah. So All that to say, guys, that is how I decided to choose myself. When he got out of jail, we know where he went, to Miss Sabrina's. And I continued to move on. I went to therapy. I went into hermit mode. I began healing. I began pouring into myself and nurturing my boys. And how I feel truly is that I did not lose a husband. I gained myself. I did not lose a marriage. I survived one. Okay. And I am very grateful to be in this space, especially, knowing how much I endured. You do not have to endure to feel loved. And that was not love. I loved from a place of um, feeling as though the more I endured, the more I would be loved. And that just wasn't it. And so I really honestly dedicate this particular video to my children because I know at some point they may come across it. And at some point we will have a conversation about what transpired and took place between their dad and I, and why I had to walk away. But it is my hope that they are proud of me for choosing not to stay, for choosing not to let them become a product of their environment. And yeah, so much. I'm really thankful to the people that was with me this season, especially the people who I called upon, and they helped me in financial binds, because at some point I left out that I got weary of asking my parents, and I ended up calling on a couple of my best friends. And that is actually when you recognize who your true friends are, when you are at a place of loss. You have 39 cents in your account and you have to ask your friends for $250 to pay a bill or something like that. Hi from post editing me. I wanted to jump in here really quick because this was really important to me. What I was trying to convey in this clip and in this portion was that I have always been self-sufficient and financially independent. I have always maintained a good credit score. I've always been able to have my own car, my own place to live, all of these things by myself. And I've always been able to support myself and my family, which includes my husband. And so for me to be in this season where I was not working, right? And then the financial burdens were purposely and intentionally placed on me early in this year, that put me in a financial deficit. And that is what made it really hard for me to come up for air and pick myself up out of that space, because I'm basically trying to recoup all the funds that was lost. And then you also have to consider, when you're under manipulation, you are in a mental imprisonment. So not only was I being burdened with all the responsibilities of the finances and the children and the household and myself, how was I able to really do well and be successful in my interviews if all of these things are piled up on one individual person? That's unfair. That's unjust. And so that's why I wanted to really thank the people that were in my corner, because had it not been for them helping me alleviate one particular area, I don't know how I would have made it. So I just have much gratitude for that. That's all. Much love. Peace. It's been a journey to get to this, but I do have a couple of notes, or final thoughts rather. Always prioritize your healing and be sure to take inventory of your heart. How is your heart feeling? If I would have asked myself this, I would have saved myself a lot of grief. Love is not earned. Again, it can never be earned. It flows freely from the heart. And then find time to sit with yourself and meditate. Just being with yourself and without distractions brings a lot of clarity and can really help you see things you might have overlooked. After you sit with yourself, then, go into prayer or meditation or whatever you feel is needed for you to get that clarity. If I had done a lot of these things, I would have eliminated a lot of the pain and suffering that I went through. healing is really important, but so is finding trusted resources like therapy, hotlines for domestic violence if you are a domestic violence survivor, and also specialized therapy for narcissistic abuse. And so I hope that if anyone, and mind you, narcissistic abuse applies to both men and women. So, anyone in that situation, I hope that you are able to find some trusted resources to be able to recover from that, because it's definitely a really hard experience. So, what's next for me? Well, a lot of healing, a lot of unlearning, a lot of boundaries, a lot of pouring into myself, and recognizing that I've thoroughly been through enough this year and the last couple to not fully love myself. And that is what I intend to do. And so, as you see me enter these next chapters and this next season, and I leave behind this one, I ask that you hold the space for me, and that you embrace the new me and the journey back to self. Much love, guys. Peace. Happy New Year.